Well, before I go off on the last bit of my vacation, I'll give you a twofer. Not only would I actually be missing the Dutch Grand Prix build-up, I'd also be missing the Italian Grand Prix build-up. But I will be home when it actually happens, so hopefully normal service will actually be there for the winners and losers of the Italian Grand Prix. For the time being, I thought I would at least give my predictions for the likes of the Dutch and Italian Grand Prix in one single video, so it is on record whenever I do an end of season video or something. Going into these two races, it's quite clear that this is going to be the most unpredictable part of the season, bar the Bahrain Grand Prix. Even though we did have 2 weeks off and the summer break means that you can't work on the car, you can work on the car for 2 weeks, and there must have been a massive big surge and build-up before the Belgian Grand Prix, where they can actually try and get everything in before they actually then have to shut down and then make sure everything's working again. All of the admin people still work. But the one thing I'm really intrigued about, and yes, I know I'm talking about McLaren, of course, but they have been very cryptic about what they're going to be doing with their upgrades. The only things that we know is that the third installment of their big Austrian campaign that they delayed from the Belgian Grand Prix and probably cost them a decent result is now going to be coming sometime soon. We don't know what race it's going to be. Is it going to be the Dutch Grand Prix, or is it going to be the Italian Grand Prix, or somewhere else? Because they have been focusing on things that are relatively low in terms of the downforce, but meant for high-speed circuits. So something's telling me that the Italian Grand Prix might be a place where they're going to be putting in their big upgrades before they actually call time on the season. And that means we might be able to have a repeat of what we saw in 2021. They saw that, okay, we do fairly well there, so why don't we just focus on there? Try and break Max Verstappen's stranglehold on victories, because if he keeps winning, he's just going to be breaking all the records, which is absolutely fine, by the way. We are just watching mastery at work, and in a few years' time, we'll be just going, wow, we lived through all of that. But right now, it is pretty galling if you are getting sick and tired of the Dutch national anthem, which I'm pretty sure that most of you kind of are. But I'm like, well, I kind of got used to the German national anthem when I was a Michael Schumacher fan, so I'm not really one to be complaining about that. But in any case, McLaren look like they could actually mean the business, because nobody knows what they're going to be doing. It's all really vague. Much like that social media post that Mercedes put out of them mixing around a bit of orange paint. What are they doing? No one really knows. And it's driving everybody crazy. Let me know in the comments what it turns out to be, and I'll be really interested. Are they going to change the teal of Petronas to orange or something like that to tease the Dutch fans? Because I wouldn't put it past Mercedes for them to do that, because they are a bunch of tricksters. I think everyone wants to be a bit of a prankster when it comes to the Dutch Grand Prix, because everyone knows that Max Verstappen's going to win. This is his track, effectively. He probably had a really big hand in its redevelopment, unless something goes wrong with the car, which of course it won't. It hasn't so far this season. It's very unlikely that's going to happen again. So I think it's quite obvious that Max Verstappen will win this race. But what about the other places? Where do I think that everyone else is going to be? Well, again, I don't really know for sure, because there have been a couple of teams where they have declared that they're not going to be developing their 2023 car anymore. They're going to focus on next year, like Williams. I feel like Williams will have a really good time of it in Monza, because everyone's hoping that they'll have a good time in Monza, because it's a really long straight and Williams are really good at that. Or if they qualify well, they'll be able to stay where they are. But in terms of points, I think they'll be very lucky to stay in the 7th place in the constructors, unless Haas actually get their act together and figure out their tyre problem. But considering it's been around for a few years, I really doubt it, because I think all of the back-end teams are going to make the most of their ATR time and just plow all their resources into next year's car. I mean, Haas did that in 2021, and that really didn't amount to anything in the end. But sorry, I don't mean for the Haas bashing, but come on. It's quite obvious. Aston Martin, I don't really know. They have got some good upgrades there, but it's all part of their plan. They don't have to rush into it just yet. They have more than exceeded expectations for this season. They really don't need to do anything else. They have done wonders. If they can at least try and hold on for 4th place in the constructors, then that would be fantastic. 5th place, where effectively the front-running teams are the top 5, and then the rest of the teams are in their own little division. Well, no, I say that. Alpine's just on its own at the moment. I think that's relatively fair. But I think next year Aston Martin will come back swinging a lot more effectively. But it depends on how Lance Stroll handles it, or whether he's even still in. Just check out my video from yesterday about where he might be going. And having said that, though, when I actually looked through the comments and did a little bit more research, because this was a bit of a knee-jerk reaction, well, he's always been around tennis and he quite likes playing tennis, so hopefully this is more than just somebody who has a hobby and goes like, oh, I like that hobby. Why don't I do that? But, okay, let's get to the predictions for the Dutch Grand Prix. So, okay, I already said it. Max Verstappen, and then I think Checo will be in second place. It's going to be a Red Bull one too. Much like the Red Bull Ring, this is effectively Red Bull's second home track because Red Bull nowadays is Max Verstappen. So it would be very, very wrong to say that Checo is not in for a good shout at second place, especially now he seems to be back in his groove again. Who's going to be third? Well, I do think it's going to be Lando Norris. McLaren are really fast on high downforce sections, the mid downforce, all that stuff. And Zandvoort is really famously known for that. I don't think he'll be able to touch the Red Bulls because the Red Bulls, with their upgrades from Hungary, I think they're untouchable at this point. The Belgian Grand Prix just proved that. But I feel that Lando is in for a good shout at the last step on the podium place. Behind him, I think Lewis Hamilton, because Mercedes did well last year, and I'm not quite sure what's going to be happening with George Russell, and I feel like he'll score points as well, maybe like 6th place or something, but I think Hamilton will have the edge because it's very obvious based on all of the stuff that Lewis said earlier on in the season. They have steered the development of the W14 in Lewis's direction just to appease him, but he's still not signed his contract. And a lot of you were saying yesterday that Hamilton could replace Stroll. Really? You really think that Alonso and Hamilton would be in the same team again? I mean, I know they're much more mature than they were back in 2007, but really? No. But yeah, so Hamilton 4th, Oscar Piastri 5th. I know I may be a little bit arsed because it's my boy, but I will say that Oscar is improving. That second place in the sprint should not be ignored, and it was just very unlucky with the whole incident with Sainz for the Belgian Grand Prix. I feel like he would have definitely been in the top 5 for Belgium because he did have a very complete car, whereas Lando had a compromised car with his floor. That MCL60 might be magic on that track, but just not as magic as the Red Bull. Okay, so Italian Grand Prix, I would definitely say that again it's going to be a Verstappen victory. But I feel like this is where Checo might slip. I don't know why, but I just have a gut feeling that he might not be able to break the top 5. I feel like it's just going to be so close at Monza. The margins are so finite, and all of the stuff with traffic for Q3 or even Q2, I feel like Red Bull might make a mistake, and Checo might actually fall out of Q2 just down to time mismanagement, which is something that we have seen happen, peaking in 2019. It's just the whole unpredictability of Monza qualifying is a spectacle in of itself. So I feel like Checo might be a casualty of that, and Verstappen will definitely go on to win because, of course, it is. Max Verstappen's just going to win everywhere. But this is where I think that McLaren will actually spring a surprise. This is more likely where they're going to be bringing in their big upgrade. I feel like it will be the McLaren boys finishing off the podium. Norris taking 2nd, Oscar taking 3rd. Team orders will prevail again. And I feel like for this season, they're probably not going to allow Oscar to really pull any fast ones unless Norris has a mistake or he has an issue. I feel like Norris will pretty much lead the McLarens in, and I think it's fine for a rookie season. But again, I could be absolutely wrong. But I feel like it's more likely Norris will have the measure of Oscar this season. Then I think there will be a Ferrari in the top 5. Charles Leclerc, 4th place. He does seem to go very well here, and he absolutely... Ooh, okay, I just actually saw a bit of breaking news there. Haas are actually going to be maintaining Magnussen and Hülkenberg for next year. So there you go. That's another team sorted out. And so Magnussen has done enough, apparently. So I guess they just want to keep continuity. All right, but okay, who's going to be in 5th place? It's going to be Alex Albon. This is where Williams are really pegging their big points payoff. Their last one of the season, or at least the last obvious one, where Albon might pull a fast one, do really, really well in qualifying, just go last gasp, do everything possible to get into Q3 and get a good qualifying position, and then just keep everybody behind him. Especially if there are talks about DRS being banned for qualifying. That could be really interesting, and that might benefit Williams quite a bit. I could be absolutely wrong, but I feel like this could be a place where Williams pull an upset and get a big chunk of points. And if they can do this, if Albon can get 5th and Sargent get a point eventually, I feel that this might be enough to help just push them over the edge and secure 7th place. Albon is a master in that car. He can make it work really well. And I feel like it could actually be a really cool upset. I think that 5th place is very, very viable. Those are my predictions. I'm going off to David Coulthard country for a week. I shall see you back eventually. Until then, I hope that you enjoy my videos. Do share them out across the F1 community because we need more and more subscribers. We want to get to 15,000 before the end of the season. and hopefully, by the time we get to post the Italian Grand Prix, we'll be back with normal service. See you around.